Hey everybody, Chili and Clicks here from the Crypto Nerds, and it's Monday. That means we're going to be talking a little news with you. The first bit of news is something that really just kind of upsets me. We see this, I found this first on YouTube. So if you do any kind of searching on YouTube for cryptocurrency, which we all do because we're all obsessed with it right now, you'll find something called pump and dump groups. And usually it's a live channel that you'll find. And every time I go to it, there's like 300 or 400 people watching it. So I was curious and I joined. And they have like Discord groups and Telegram groups. If you're not sure what those are, they're just chat rooms that you can go to. And there are thousands of people. And the entire idea of these groups is to pick a coin well in advance, tell everybody what that coin is. And we're all going to buy it up. We're going to pump up this coin. Everybody's going to buy. It's going to reach a certain target level, and we're all going to sell. And what I found interesting about these groups, or this particular group that I joined, and there was 1,130 something people in this group. That's a lot. Amount of people. That's a lot of people. Is that they're telling you when to do this, but as you're watching the room, and I watched this happen on a certain coin. I can't remember what coin it was, and it was a couple weeks ago. It seems like everybody at the bottom of this period was getting screwed, and they're in the pump and dump group. So these people are using. I don't want to say vulnerable people, but people not really in the know. They think they're going to join something. They think they're all going to make a ton of money. We're all going to get millionaires off these pump and dumps. But all you're doing is making the person or people who set these groups up a lot of money because they're in well before they give you any information, and they're out well before the dump-off period. So the U.S. Commodity Future and Trading Commission has now stepped in, and they're doing it in a very interesting way. They're rewarding people who blow the whistle on these 10 to 30% of whatever the pump and dump is. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to make that much on a pump and dump. There is motivation now for me to be like, hey, I know of these groups. I know somewhat what's going on with these groups. I don't want to say like I'm some sort of insider because I don't do this. I find this to be completely unethical, and I believe it's illegal. If it wasn't illegal,
it's still dumb to do, even if it's not illegal, but pretty sure it is.
So the interesting thing is that these groups are so sophisticated that they have software that you need to download to be a part of it and do it. And I've seen other YouTubers talk about it, and they kind of brush it off a little bit, almost to the point where I'm wondering if some of them are involved in it. But the CFTC, the U.S. Commodities Future Trading Commission, on any pump and dump that is over $1 million, and I don't know, if you have 1,000 people in your group, it doesn't seem all that out of the norm to have a group that can do over $1 million. They're going to reward you with 10 to 30% if you rat them out. Now, I don't know how you feel about this, but this is good. I think these need to go, especially if you're a bot trader like we are, because these pump and dump groups can really, really screw up one of the pairs or two of the pairs that you're playing with. And this is why we see these radical shifts for no news. We'd be like, there's no news on this. Why is it shifting 30, 40, 50% today?
Yeah, and it's always no-name coins, and it's frustrating too, as if you're developing a coin and then you see it skyrocket and you're like, wow, its traction is really going, and then find out later it was a pump and dump and it crashes back, and now everybody knows your coin, which they didn't know your coin before, but now they just go, oh yeah, that was just a pump and dump. Nobody cares about that coin. So it just, the whole thing I think is terrible, and obviously there's not too much that can be done about it. They're going to try to catch the people, but I mean, unless you have people whistleblowing, you're not going to know. It's all anonymous, so it's a tough one.
We do need to whistleblow these things.
Yeah.
I think we need to legitimize cryptocurrency as much as we can instead of doing the opposite of trying to hoard as much as we can, because hoarding all this stuff in a legal way is the governments and the officials of the world are going to step in and go, enough is enough.
Yeah.
They're not going to just keep turning a blind eye to it like they have over the last several years, because this is a legit form of currency now. When government starts taking notice and start making regulations on it, that tells you that this thing is here to stay. And we both agree that this is probably going to be here to stay if all the other things leading up to this point haven't knocked it down. But to me, one of the biggest problems is pump and dumps. ICO is the other ones, and we'll talk about that one in another video.
Yeah.
Disdain for those. But pump and dumps, there's no benefit in pump and dumps. The only people making money on that people on the top of that pyramid.
It's just
set up these groups.
A pyramid scheme, but instead of sending it directly, you're going through an exchange and buying it, and nobody sees who's really at the top. For all we know, these people running these pump and dumps could all be, lower level people in some kind of underground group, like the drug dealers do with the different tiers and stuff. So you don't know who's actually benefiting from this. It could be terrorists. It could be, your neighbor next door. You have no idea. And something's going to be done. Hopefully this is enough, because the only next step is to really crack down on trading platforms and add more regulations. And then that just makes it more difficult for all of us to use crypto. And I don't want to see that. Right now it's easy to get into and get started with. And we want it to be that way. That's the whole point, to have it be easier than using credit card transactions and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, and I agree. But there's lots of bad things in crypto, but this to me is like the bottom of the bottom. But we need to eliminate that, because like you said, this is not ethical people that are building these pump and dump groups. We don't know if you're sponsoring criminal activities with this, because a lot of them use this to fund their wars, to fund their criminal activity. And I believe a lot of people at the bottom have good intentions. They're like, I'm going to get in crypto. This is an easy way for me to make some money. Somebody has some quote unquote insider tip. We're going to manipulate the market. And I believe there's a lot of good people down there with, skeptical reasons. But all of you are getting burned, because everybody at the bottom of the pyramid all they're doing is feeding that price range up. Because you keep buying up, eventually somebody's going to buy at the peak in that group to push it up, and then everybody dumps out. And that's why they require you to have software and all this stuff. So I would say this: if you don't know what a pump and dump is, go read about it and avoid them at all costs.
Yeah.
Because all you're doing is making somebody else rich. You're not sure who you're doing that to. And what you're really doing is you're messing up all the other bot traders, or all the other people who are trading. Because trading is a zero-sum game. For every winner, there's a loser. So you're screwing good, honest people out of that crypto that you're doing. So I'm not a fan of it, and I would avoid it at all costs, mostly because it's illegal.
Yeah.
So the next thing that we're going to talk about is a couple of my favorite things. We both agree that blockchain is probably one of the greatest technologies that we've seen in our generation. Internet and then like blockchain.
Yeah.
One of the other great things I've seen is the Internet of Things. And we know that I'm a big Raspberry Pi user, and I think the Internet of Things is quite interesting. Well, the PM of India has now said that this is going to be a major part of our lives. Blockchain and the Internet of Things are going to be so tightly intertwined that it's going to just become part of our everyday living.
And he's actually calling for rapid adoption. He's got some typos in there, so it's a little hard to read. But the point is, India has had a lot of mixed signals on whether they're okay with cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. And so for the PM of India to tweet out himself saying we need to rapidly adopt this, that's a huge good signal to cryptocurrencies, because there is so many uses. I was talking to somebody yesterday in person, and you meet somebody and say, hey, what do you do? And he's working on blockchain for medical supplies, and I'm like, oh, this, it's getting so popular now. You meet people offline in regular situations who are now working with the technology. So for them to have been sending signals that they don't want it, that's been causing a lot of downturn and turmoil in the markets. But for them to say, no, we want it to be rapidly adopted, that's a good thing.
And I agree, and I think it should be, and I applaud them for this kind of mindset. Like, this is a great technology, whether or not you agree with cryptocurrency or not. The blockchain's amazing, and we know that it's amazing because people are hiring at it at an insane rate. So one of the things I like to do is I love to troll the job boards. I'm just curious what other developers get paid. Are we on the same level as them? And one of the biggest ones right now are blockchain engineers. Now, I'm not really sure what it takes to become a blockchain engineer, but they're in such high demand that companies aren't going to be hiring six-figure employees if there wasn't a valid reason to bring them in. So big companies are getting in. We're seeing governments starting to, they're warming up to it. Let's not say they're open arms with it, but they can see that there is some really amazing technology that they can loop onto. A medical field is a great example of that. In a future video, maybe we can break down on how is the medical field physically using the blockchain? What are they do?
Yeah.
And in the last piece of news today, we have our favorite company, Coinbase. And I don't know if you noticed the sarcasm. So when I first heard this story that Coinbase was overcharging its users when they use their credit cards, the first thing that came to my mind was, yeah, no crap. And that's actually not the case. And that's okay.
It's actually a good thing to find out yet another big company that grew at that rate isn't screwing over its customers. Because, I mean, that's our tendency is to now just assume once you get to a certain level of user base, then you're just going to start doing dirty stuff and nobody can stop you. Which is sad that so many companies have done that we actually think that. But thankfully, Visa did put out a statement saying it wasn't their fault. They try to word it in a way like it was nobody's fault. It was just they were changing the way payments were recorded. I'm personally not sure why they had to recharge and refund all these payments to give them a different category code. As a programmer, I question why they couldn't just update that transaction itself. But
as soon as we saw that seemed fishy. So the first thing that popped in my mind is, okay, I'm glad Coinbase isn't screwing everything. Because if Coinbase does, we're going to see a massive collapse in cryptocurrency. Because everyone that I talk to that are newer in this, that's where they're going to. Even my brother who just got into this, he's like, I went to Coinbase and I dropped money. I'm like, whoa, hey, let's talk about this before you start throwing money at things. But to them, that's the easiest place. So we need Coinbase to be legitimate and we need them to play fair. And you and I both have theories about Coinbase, and that's another show for another time. But this seems weird. This seems, especially as being developers, that didn't seem like that should have been something they did. So what they did is they charged everybody to change it and then refund it. But they took a little while to make the refund, enough of a while for people to go, hey, you double charged me for my coins. So
I've never heard of this.
I'm wondering if somebody tried to do something fishy. Somebody caught them doing this fishy thing, and they're like, "Oh, whoa! We can't do that. Crypto's too legitimate now." Maybe 5 years ago you could have got away with that. And you and I have some amazing stories we can tell on how we've lost crypto through unethical companies. But I'm glad that Coinbase and Visa are playing nice because we need them to play nice.
We need more. It's going to sound bad, but we need more Coinbases because the one thing that they do right is they make it a lot simpler to understand how to get started. You can argue, okay, obviously they got higher fees and all that, but at the end of the day, people will pay for something that's easier to use. And so that's good. What we need is we need more companies to basically compete with Coinbase, so that way there's more competition. But I feel like the alternatives that I've used are just not as easy. There's too many steps, and people like it.
So what we found in the crypto world since we've been involved is everything seems really nerdy, right? And that's kind of where we got the term from, the crypto nerd. Up to this point, everything seemed nerdy. So it was great for guys like us or people like us who really wanted to get into what the nerdy part of it was. But then there's people like my uncle or my brother and your cousin and your friends that just go, I have a computer and I know kind of how to use it, but I don't want to understand these machines and these bots that you guys are running. I just want to buy some Bitcoin and I want to put it in whatever quote unquote this wallet is. And the easiest place for me to do that is Coinbase. Yeah. Because you're right. Coinbase it's simple. A lot of these other services we've used, it's too many steps, and you're right. So it's nice to see companies that get the customer end of it being involved. So thankfully, Coinbase and Visa are not scamming us. And if you're listening to this and you're part of that, your money is going to be back into your account. So thanks for listening to the Crypto Nerds this week. And we'll see you guys next week.
See you next week. Bye. See ya.
All right. Did that go well? We're off the cuff.
Oh man, I forgot to hit record.
All right, ready to start over?
Yeah.